Anderson, swing. This is gonna be a home run. Unbelievable! I don't believe what I just saw.
Hello, I'm Chris Fowler for SportsCentury. On June 11th, 1997, the night of Game 5 of the NBA Finals, the word ricocheted around the sports world. Michael Jordan is sick. Retchingly, wobble-kneed, head in a bucket, ill. The Chicago Bulls were not exactly healthy themselves. With the series tied at 2 games each, the Utah Jazz had the Bulls right where they wanted them, on their home court, where they'd won 23 straight. As we'll see in the next half hour, what transpired will forever after be known as the flu game.
Now, the big story here tonight, the story concerning Michael Jordan's physical condition.
Even before we heard about Michael, there was this sense that we were seeing something we'd never seen before with these Bulls. If they lost this Game 5 in Utah, they were suddenly going to be on the verge of losing the NBA Finals. Then you find out that Jordan is sick.
There was such a big buzz before the game. Michael's throwing up. Michael's throwing up. I mean, it's like we heard every detail about his vomiting.
No one knows exactly what they have. The temperature, was it the flu? Food poisoning is what, was supposedly be.
There were a lot of rumors that were flying around at the same time. The biggest one was that Michael got some bad pizza. It was believable to some people that some guy in a Park City pizza joint had poisoned Michael. What a brilliant plan to help the Jazz win the NBA Finals.
The night before, we were all in Michael's room when the pizza came. I luckily didn't have any of the pizza. And the next morning, I remember speaking to him saying he was really sick, like really, really sick.
About 9 o'clock in the morning, we were going to practice, and somebody said one of the players was sick. And it turned out it was Michael. And we went to his room, and Michael didn't look very well. He'd been up for, 6 or 7 hours with a headache and nausea. I examined him. He wasn't dehydrated. He wasn't having diarrhea. So I gave him a couple of medications to get some rest and relax his stomach. And I told him I'd check on him after practice.
When we got there in the morning to shoot around, and Michael wasn't there. I mean, come on, where's Michael? Michael Jordan never misses a shoot around in the finals. He's sick. So now everybody's thinking this could be the end of the Bulls. I mean, if Michael doesn't play, they have no chance.
Bill, you guys still feel a sense of urgency?
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
How about Michael? How's Michael doing?
I don't know.
I went by the room, and he was curled up on the couch, like in a fetal position, just with his head buried in a pillow. As bad as he was, the possibility of not playing that night never entered his mind, I'm sure. After all those years, it never really entered mine either.
I went back up after practice, and he was better. He ate his steak before the game, blood pressure, everything else was fine. Had a minimal headache, if at all, and he said he wanted to go and play. So we took the bus ride down from Park City, which was a very, very winding bus ride.
The bus ride was probably 35 minutes from Park City to where we were playing the arena, and he had a towel around his head.
You can just tell he wasn't his normal self on the bus, getting on, kind of, talking to each guy, saying, hey, let's get ready and stay focused. He was kind of had his head down, and you could tell he wasn't feeling well.
He just looked like a basket case, and we were thinking, is this the one time that he's not going to make it?
When we got to the stadium there, he was feeling very, very dizzy.
And literally, I thought that he struggled to get down the hallway to the training room where we're at.
Coffee is very, very good for inner ear type things. So we gave him 4, 5, 6 cups of coffee, and he felt a little better. He did not vomit that I know of. He did not have any diarrhea. He did not have any bad pizza that caused anything like that. Thought he probably had a virus. He wanted to play. His blood pressure, his vital signs, everything else was fine.
I walked in the locker room, he wasn't there, so it wasn't a big concern, but you can tell the atmosphere was kind of weird. Everybody was whispering, and that's when I walked in the back room, and he was like half dead. He was bent over. A couple of doctors were holding him up. He was real weak. He had no balance. It didn't look good.
The rest of us just kind of went on to our normal routine of getting ready and mentally and physically prepared for the game. It was always in the back of our mind, like, what's Michael going to do? Is he going to be okay? And Is he going to play?
When his dad was alive, I used to talk to him, and I'd say, Michael's not feeling good. He says, yeah, but watch the game he has tonight. And so we were sort of kidding about that. Could he have this type of game?
I walk out and see the equipment manager, and I said, oh, man, Mike doesn't look good. He goes, great. I said, what do you mean great? He goes, we're going to win. I said, what do you mean we're going to win? I mean, he's dead. He goes, no, whenever he's sick, he plays phenomenal. I'm like, come on, he can't even move. He goes, watch.
I think it very much was a big city, high-profile team against the small-town, perennial non-contenders. Not that the Jazz weren't contenders, but they never got there.
14 years, those guys had been there, fighting every year, and then finally, one open shot, we were there.
John Stockton sends the Utah Jazz to the NBA Finals.
All the frustration, all the years of playoffs, all the 51 seasons, and now you're there. You're going to the dance, and it was incredible.
Several players in the Jazz locker room who broke down with the emotion of finally getting there. A few hours later, they had to start thinking about trying to win the NBA Finals, but I don't think they'd even thought about that before, to be honest with you.
The Bulls knew all through the season that they were head and shoulders above everyone else, and it was just a matter of finding the right gear where they could stay kind of comfortably ahead of the pack, but wouldn't sap their energy for the playoff run.
The Bulls had cruised through the Eastern Conference playoffs, going 11-2, and then they won the first 2 games of the finals. But the Jazz evened the series with 2 home court victories and had pivotal Game 5 at the Delta Center.
It's awfully tough to beat a team back-to-back, let alone try to beat them 3 in a row.
Just winning, period, was on my mind. We had to go back anyway to play Game 6, even if we did win. So I wanted to win that game real bad.
We just said we have to win this. You don't come out here and lose 3 in a row and then expect to go back home and win 2.
It was a really critical game. So whoever wanted that 5th game of the series felt that was it.
We had this great practice in Salt Lake, and there was this tremendous hailstorm while we were practicing on this June day. And it had the noise of this crowd that Utah could generate this tremendous amount of noise. And we laughed and said, that God's providing us this noise so that we could prepare ourselves for game number 5.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, introducing our Utah Jazz.
When you get your home crowd behind you, and I really think that gives you a little extra, oomph to help you get going. And man, they were unbelievable.
Pippen, try to protect it. Ostertag with a good play. And here comes Isley. Isley for Malone. Utah by 5.
We was coming out fired up. Even our bench was doing a heck of a job following the lead. We were high impact.
Shot clock at 4. Morris. Oh, Chicago needs a timeout.
Jordan very often started out games kind of assessing the situation. This was a little different, though. It looked to me like he was trying to figure out if he was going to be able to really do this. And I think the Jazz took advantage of that.
Antoine Carr putting the spin.
Down 16 isn't a good thing. I mean, the crowd was definitely into it. They were feeling like they had a victory. We just stayed the course.
We knew in the back of our heads, this is defending world champs. They're not champs for nothing. They're going to come back.
And Jordan puts moves on Hornacek.
The first quarter was probably just to get some of the flu out, but as the game go along, and you're a great player such as Mike, you're gonna find a way to get it done. And that second quarter, he caught fire.
Jordan finding Longley, and the Jazz now leading by just 9.
He would do whatever he could to win the game. And if it took conning you, he would con you. And there was a little mixture, among press row. Is he putting on a little bit? How sick is he really?
Jordan to the crossover. Yes.
There was a little feeling like this was Michael's rope-a-dope. He obviously wasn't feeling well, but he knew that he had enough to play. And when the Jazz got out to a big lead, he saw that a big expenditure of energy was necessary.
Told by Jordan. Utah's lead is down to 1.
Michael Jordan might have been sick, but he wasn't sick to play basketball. I mean, if you bought into that, you could have been sold anything in the world. I never bought into it. I told our players never to buy into it.
Because you watch him, and while the game is going on, while he's playing, He's unbelievable. But as soon as there's a stoppage in play, he's coming over to the bench for a timeout, he's just like, oh, and he drops.
You can tell when your teammate is not right, when you don't see that vicious fire in Michael's eyes, the eye of the tiger. So his teammates knew it. And as he sat there with a towel over him, looked as if he was almost getting chills.
Every time they call a timeout, they want to get an update. And it was, I remember I kept saying back to our producer, he said he's sick. He said he doesn't feel well. He said he feels horrible. And it got to be kind of funny.
It's like a surrealistic experience. You're going through it, and you don't really believe that you're really a part of it and can make a difference. I thought about saying something, but I didn't. It was probably the toughest decision of my medical career because so many things could have happened at that point.
That was probably the biggest concern, given the altitude and dryness of the atmosphere in Salt Lake City at that time, that he would just be well hydrated throughout. So the big thing is to make sure he's drinking enough fluids throughout the game. As so often happens, he seems to kind of grow with the situation.
Jordan wrung 17 points from his feverish body in the second quarter, and at halftime, the Bulls trailed 53-49.
There was just something about him where the body, the mind, the soul of Michael Jordan, you just learn never to doubt it, even in that sick game, as we call it, that sick game situation. At halftime, I knew he'd be back.
97 NBA Most Valuable Player.
Jordan is the ultimate competitor, and while Michael had just been dominating everything, they kept giving MVP awards to the other guys, and I think that irked Michael.
I told Carl, winning the MVP may have been the worst thing that you could have done going into this series against Michael Jordan.
That was one thing he could hang his head on, going head-to-head against the MVP when everybody knows I should be the MVP.
He resented it for Karl Malone, not because he didn't respect Karl or anything, but he felt he wanted to show, and he believed that he was the best player and the most valuable player all the time. And Michael always likes to have some sort of poor me thing to fight against.
The thing about me as a person and me as a basketball player later in my years is that inside my head, I had to start creating challenges for myself because I accomplished everything that people, said I couldn't do.
Karl Malone had the ball and Game 1 of the NBA Finals in his hands. There were 9 seconds left. The score was tied at 82, and the mailman was at the free throw line for 2.
Game 1, you're really trying to set the tone for the series, and what Utah had done was, put themselves in a great position to win the basketball game. And, Karl missed a free throw.
When he missed the first free throw, Scottie Pippen mentioned to Malone, the mailman doesn't deliver on Sundays.
They were huge free throws. He just missed free throws. It happens to everybody.
You remember thinking after he missed those free throws, well, the Bulls have done the tough part now. They got the ball back for Michael Jordan.
We're down to 2, now to 1. Here's Jordan. Yes! It is all over.
And it was typical of Jordan to make a statement to open the series to saying, not only you're not MVP, you're not winning this series.
Malone had a chance for redemption in Game 5. But rather than attack the basket, he was content to linger on the perimeter. He missed 5 of his 6 second-half shots and totaled only 19 points.
Karl Malone not able to hit.
We felt like if we could have him shooting, fadeaway jump shots 15, 16 feet away from the basket, he's going to make a lot of those. That's definitely more to our benefit than having him, pounding it in on us inside.
We always try to get him inside. Karl is a competitor. That's his mentality, is try to win it however way he can. And yeah, he may have taken a few more outside shots that game.
Here's Malone. And Longley rebounds.
At just that point, they was forcing him out a little bit further than normal. At that time, we was looking for him too much. I think half of us, we should have stepped up a little bit more in trying to get open and trying to create our own shots. John Stockton is disgusted with Malone. When he makes the same pass he's made a million times to Malone, that Malone has turned into dunks, and this time it turns into a missed fall-away jumper. There's a brief moment of, Karl's going to do this to us again, that goes across Stockton's face.
Now who's going to want to shoot here for Utah?
That's what he had in mind.
Karl played like a guy who was trying to protect something rather than get something.
Karl was never able to take the game away from Michael. And when you look at championship history,
It's all about these head-to-head matchups with guys with differing games and who's going to be able to control the flow. The way you would have beaten Michael is by having an Akeem Olajuwon or a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or a Moses Malone or a Shaquille O'Neal, all these great legendary post guys, and Carl could have been that guy, but couldn't get it done.
Michael is a killer. I mean, he has to be the best. He doesn't just want to be the best, he has to be the best. And I think one of the great things that Chicago always had in big games was the Michael factor. His toughness of mind, which affected his teammates.
In the third quarter, he only scored 2 points. And Scottie Pippen came over to him and said, don't worry about the defense. I'll take care, I'll play my man and your man. All you do is do what you do best, and that's score in the fourth quarter.
We really should have took advantage of him by running a little bit more to wear him down, but we didn't.
He should have been so fatigued that he wouldn't have any legs for those jump shots. I mean, we played 3 quarters and we go into the fourth quarter. He'd have been tired. He'd have been feeling from chasing Jeff Horn the second round or chasing myself.
You have to realize who you're attacking. One of the greatest defensive players, by the way, that's ever played the game. I didn't think that Jeff Hornacek was going to be able to attack Michael Jordan in that situation with a ball because that's who he was guarding. And Jeff has never been that kind of player to take the ball and play one-on-one.
Utah has forever to lament not running Jordan into the ground when he was on defense. But the more significant fact is the Jazz had no antidote for his offense. With the Bulls down by 8 points in the fourth quarter, Jordan erupted.
The Jazz 77 and the Bulls 71.
When Michael got on that roll, that it was almost as though you couldn't keep up with him and you couldn't believe how good this story was getting.
Jordan fires for yes, and he's tied the game at 77.
He'd hit shot after shot, and he'd make some spectacular shot, and you'd try to write it down on your notepad. Before you could do it, you'd look up and he'd done something else.
Jordan shooting, yes. Chicago 79 and Utah 77.
He just kept hitting big shot after big shot, and like just running back down the court on defense. He looked like he was going to fall down. He just did not look good at all.
I was just sitting there hoping he didn't pass out. There's nothing else that I could do. He looked a couple of times in the third and fourth quarter like he was going to pass out.
Jordan, yes. The Jazz by 1.
And then from that point on, it was just a battle into who would take the last second shot.
With 46 seconds to play, Jordan tied it at 85 with 1 free throw, then lined up for a second.
Jordan able to scoop up the loose ball.
I let the team down, 7-footer, and they're counting on me to rebound, and that's it. Rebound and block shots. I missed a crucial box out. I have some blame to take for that loss. So.
Well, I've always said, we lost the championship because we didn't do some of the simple things in basketball, and that's to block out and give up an offensive rebound on free throws.
You don't expect Michael to miss a free throw, but he's a human being, so I was just in the right place at the right time, tipped the ball back.
Michael reaches down with John Stockton right there. Quick hands. Michael somehow gathers the ball, goes outside behind the three-point line.
10 on the shot clock. Pippen.
So I go down to help, and he kicks it out, and Mike, no hesitation, shot it.
When you're as good as Michael Jordan is, why would you ever double team someone else?
Because I thought he was a little fatigued. He was bent over at times, and I was like, well, maybe he don't want to take that because he's not a better three-point shooter than 2.
That's a bit shocking. Brian said that. That was a decision that definitely haunted them.
Michael Jordan from straight away.
Don't double team. That was one of the things where we made a mistake. You can't make mistakes and win in games like that.
It's a big dagger when you fought the whole game and have stupid mistakes like that to give them that opportunity. You can't give the greatest player in the world that opportunity, sick or not sick.
Hitting that three-point shot at a very key moment, when a person who was totally drained at the level he was drained at, was a psychological battle that I'd never seen anybody overcome.
The teams exchanged baskets, and with the Bulls ahead 90-87 and the clock melting down, the Jazz still had a chance to force overtime.
Down to 6 2/10 seconds remaining in this fourth quarter. Here's the three-point attempt. And the Chicago Bulls have defeated the Utah Jazz.
I was really tired. I was very weak. At halftime, I told Phil that use me in spurts. But, I mean, somehow I found the energy. Just stay strong. I wanted it really bad.
After the game, he looked terrible. He looked like he was going to pass out. We lied him down in the locker room. Blood pressure was okay. He was so weak that he couldn't drink.
They had a doctor there that wanted to give him an IV, and he's so afraid of needles, he wouldn't let the guy give him the IV. Absolutely not.
We had to force-feed him Gatorade, and it took about 30 or 45 minutes of giving him a lot of Gatorade, and then he was finally able to stand up and felt okay.
The man who could barely stand had played 44 minutes. He scored 38 points, grabbed 7 rebounds, and passed out 5 assists. And he demonstrated anew his remarkable capacity for seizing the moment and making it his.
My lasting image is Jordan coming to the bench, just spent towards the end of that game. And Scottie Pippen had to help him to the bench and help him sit down.
Mentally, he's got to be the strongest player I've ever played with, and maybe in the history of the NBA, because he's so mentally tough and his will to win is so strong. He's just not going to let us lose. And that was just a feeling like no matter how sick he was, whatever his temperature was, what he was feeling, he was going to, lead us to victory. And that's what he did.
If you put on the uniform, you're able to play. There are no excuses. That's the essence of professional sports. To say that he had such a great game and he was sick, what does that mean? If he wasn't sick, he'd have a better game? I don't think so. And that was a great performance, whether he was sick or he wasn't.
2 nights after the flu game, the Bulls and Jazz were tied at 86 in the final half minute of Game 6. In the Chicago huddle, a fully recovered Michael Jordan told Steve Kerr to be ready to shoot. MJ, who had won the opening game with a last-second basket, was certain Utah would be doubling him. He couldn't have been more correct. Kerr took Jordan's pass and with 5 seconds left, hit the shot that delivered the Bulls their 5th title in 7 years and reinforced Jordan's reputation as the man who, healthy or ill, could find both the will and the way to win. For SportsCentury, I'm Chris Fowler.